Have you ever walked into a room and sensed that something wasn't quite right? The words were polite, the smiles were faint but present, and yet there was an unspoken tension. Maybe it was the way someone avoided your gaze, or how their laughter felt a little too forced. Perhaps they used to greet you with warmth, but now their enthusiasm has cooled. It's like a subtle shift in the wind. You can't see it, but you feel it. We've all been there, haven't we? Wondering if we've offended someone, questioning whether we've done something wrong, not sure if it's just us being overly sensitive or if someone truly feels displeased with us. The truth is, human connection is delicate. It's not always about what's said out loud, it's often about what isn't. It's about the quiet cues, the body language, the silences that stretch just a little too long. And when someone is upset with us, they don't always come out and say it directly. The most telling signs are often the subtlest. So today, let's slow down together. Let's reflect, not to overthink or fall into anxiety, but to become more aware, more attuned, more conscious of the energy we bring into our relationships and the energy we receive in return. This is not about paranoia. This is about presence. As the Stoics often taught, we cannot control how others feel, but we can become wiser observers of the world and people around us. And in that wisdom, we gain the ability to respond with grace. So let's talk about it. 5 subtle signs someone may be displeased with you and how a Stoic heart might handle it. Part 1. Their energy shifts. Slight light always begins with energy. Long before words can betray what someone truly feels, long before behaviors become obviously cold or distant, there's a subtle, almost invisible shift in the energy between you and them. You don't need to be an expert in human psychology to feel it. You sense it. They may still say hello, still engage in small talk, still behave within the bounds of social decency, but the warmth has faded. The tone is flatter. The pauses between sentences grow longer. They look at you, but the look doesn't land. It glances off, disconnected, like a paper boat drifting on the surface, never diving into the deeper waters of presence. This is not something you can point to on paper. It doesn't show up in texts or transcripts. It's not in the words. They might still be saying all the right ones. It's in the air, and it feels heavier now. You wonder if you've done something wrong. You replay recent conversations in your mind. Did I say something? Did I miss something? Or are they just tired, having a rough day, dealing with something unrelated? That uncertainty, that internal questioning is part of what makes this moment so fragile. We don't want to jump to conclusions, but we also don't want to ignore what we're feeling. And in that space between knowing and not knowing, we can easily fall into anxiety, assumption, or defensiveness. But here is where the wisdom of the Stoics becomes a lantern in the dark. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "If someone is mistaken, instruct them kindly and show them their error. But if you cannot, accept it and let it go." To be upset by anything external is to give away your power. The truth is, we can't control the thoughts or feelings of others. We can't demand clarity from someone who isn't ready to speak. But we can notice. We can become better observers of others, yes, but more importantly, of ourselves. When someone's energy shifts, don't rush to fix. Don't rush to fight. Just pause. Ask yourself gently, like a teacher with a favored student, what am I feeling right now, and what is it rooted in? Is it fear of being rejected? Is it guilt that I may have caused harm? Or is it simply the discomfort of not knowing? Seneca, in his letters to Lucilius, reminds us, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Sometimes the person truly is just tired, distracted, going through something internal that has nothing to do with us. And sometimes, yes, they are pulling away, but reacting without reflection only adds noise to silence. There's an emotional intelligence that comes with sitting quietly with the discomfort, not ignoring it, not dramatizing it, just being with it, observing the shift without rushing to name it. And yet, that shift still matters, because energy is the soul's language. It speaks even when mouths remain closed. When someone is displeased, especially if they're someone who avoids conflict, the first thing they often withdraw is that warmth, that enthusiasm, that natural leaning in. Because unlike confrontation, energy withdrawal doesn't require confrontation. It's silent, and in that silence, a kind of boundary is being drawn. Epictetus, ever the voice of reason, said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." So when energy changes in a relationship, listen, not just to their words, but to their rhythm, their tone, their presence. What's no longer being said? What's no longer being offered? If it's someone you care about deeply, it's okay to reach out, not with accusation, but with presence, a simple heartfelt check-in, not to demand an explanation, but to remind them, "You're safe with me. I'm here if you want to talk." And if they don't respond, release them with love. The Stoic path teaches us to cherish connection without clinging to it, because real presence begins with respect for others and ourselves. So, the next time you feel that energy shift, don't panic, don't plead. Observe, breathe, and respond with the quiet strength of someone who knows that peace, real peace, always begins within. Part 2. They lean on politeness instead of presence. There's a certain kind of distance that masquerades as civility. You've felt it before. We all have. A conversation that checks all the social boxes, pleasantries exchanged, questions asked, even laughter shared, but it leaves you feeling strangely hollow. Like a song played with perfect notes, but no soul. You walk away wondering, did we connect, or did we just go through the motions? When someone is displeased with you, but doesn't want to confront you, or perhaps doesn't know how, they may retreat into politeness, and at first glance, it's hard to notice, because nothing seems wrong. But that's exactly what makes it so subtle, and so quietly painful. You see, presence is something you feel. It's not about how many words are spoken or how much time is spent. It's about being with you, not just around you. It's eye contact that lingers, laughter that comes naturally, moments that flow without effort. But when someone is upset, their presence often vanishes while their politeness remains. They nod, they respond, they keep up appearances, but their heart, their attention, their care, it's been pulled back. What you're left with is form without feeling, a shell of what the relationship used to be. And if you're sensitive to connection, this can sting deeply, because it doesn't feel like rejection. Not obviously, it feels like a quick dismissal, like a light dimmed slowly until the room felt unfamiliar. Here is where Stoic philosophy can help us not only understand, but transcend the emotional fog. Marcus Aurelius, ever the quiet emperor of reflection, once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts when someone leans into polite detachment. It is often a reflection of an inner shift. Their thoughts toward you may have changed, and so their energy has followed. They may not be ready to express it. They may not even be conscious of it, but it shows." And here's the Stoic wisdom. Don't take their politeness as truth. Take it as a signal, a sign that something deeper may be at play. It is tempting to mirror their surface behavior, responding with our coldness, withdrawing our presence. But this is where our philosophy becomes a practice. Seneca, in his letters to Lucilius, reminds us, wherever there is a human being, there's an opportunity for kindness. Politeness is easy. It requires no investment, no risk. But kindness, true, courageous kindness, requires presence. It asks us to stay open, even when we feel unsure, to stay sincere, even when others pull back. So what do we do when someone offers us only civility, but not connection? We meet it with grace, not grievance. We can choose to honor their space without hardening our hearts. We can choose to remain present in a world that often prefers performance over authenticity. And if this person matters to you, if the relationship is worth holding, then it's okay to gently invite a deeper exchange, not by accusing, but by revealing, "Hey, I notice things feel a little different lately. If there's something we need to talk about, I'm open." That kind of vulnerability takes courage, but it also creates room for healing, for honesty, for reconnection, if they're willing. And if they're not, that's okay, too. As Epictetus wisely said, "You are not disturbed by events, but by your interpretation of them." So interpret the mask of politeness not as an insult, but as a message, a sign that something in the dynamic has shifted. And in that shift, you are being called not to react but to reflect, to embody the calm strength of someone who no longer chases connection, but welcomes it when it's real. Because presence is a gift, a sacred one. And you deserve more than polite performance, you deserve true presence. Part 3. They stop sharing their world with you. Don't always realize how precious it is when someone shares the small corners of their life with us until those corners begin to close. Think about it. There's a kind of intimacy in the mundane. A friend texts you a photo of the sky because it reminded them of you. Someone who sends you a meme at midnight just because they know it would make you laugh. A story that starts with, "This probably isn't important, but I thought you'd appreciate it." These are not grand gestures, but they are the quiet rituals of closeness. Tiny windows into someone's inner world. And when someone is displeased with you, one of the first signs isn't necessarily anger or confrontation. It's silence, a soft, creeping silence that replaces what used to be shared freely. They stop telling you what book they're reading. They stop venting about their day. They don't ask your opinion anymore. Conversations become mechanical, functional. At best, you're no longer invited into their thoughts because something inside them no longer feels safe, or perhaps no longer sees the point. This withdrawal is subtle, but it's piercing because it doesn't always come with an explanation. It just happens, like a slow fade in the background. One day, you look up and realize you don't know what's going on in their life anymore. Not really. Not the way you used to. From a Stoic perspective, this is a powerful moment of inner reckoning. The absence of words becomes the presence of a lesson. Epictetus once said, "Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. Then your life will flow well." It's natural to want people to stay open with us, to keep trusting us with their hearts and thoughts. But we must remember people are not obligated to keep us close. Their silence is not something we can control. What we can control is our response when someone stops sharing their world with you. Don't rush to force the door open. Don't guilt them, don't pry. Pause, breathe, and ask yourself, gently, did I close a door without realizing it? Did I miss a cue, ignore a hurt, or fail to show up when they needed me most? Sometimes, yes, we did. We're human, we make mistakes, and when that's the case, a sincere acknowledgement can begin the work of repair. Not grand apologies for the sake of performance, but quiet, honest reflection shared with humility. I've noticed you've been more distant. If I've hurt you in some way, I'd like to understand. And other times, their silence has nothing to do with us. Life gets heavy, people retreat inward. Sometimes it's not about a specific offense, it's about timing, about overwhelm, about their own need for solitude. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The Stoic path teaches us to release the need for constant validation, to honor people's freedom even when it stings. If someone once let you into their world and has now closed that door, meet it not with desperation, but with grace. Their silence is not your failure. It is simply a shift, and shifts are part of nature. Relationships, like seasons, change. Some flourish again in time, others drift into memory. Both are okay, but don't let their silence harden you. Let it soften you. Let it remind you of how sacred it is when someone does choose to share with you. And the next time someone opens even a small part of their world to you, listen deeply. Hold it with care, because the gift of someone's inner world is never small, and when it's gone, the echo it leaves behind can teach us more than words ever could. Part 4. They engage less but still listen. There's a particular kind of disconnection that's easy to miss, yet difficult to ignore once you've felt it. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. It doesn't come with confrontation or sharp words. It often comes wrapped in quiet cooperation. They're still there. They answer your questions. They show up to the conversation. They might even smile, but something's different. They no longer build on what you say. They no longer follow up with curiosity or enthusiasm. The space between your words isn't filled with their energy, it's just space. They're there, but not with you. It's a subtle dance. You speak, and they nod. You tell a story, and they chuckle softly, politely. But gone are the days when they would light up, lean in, add their own story, and make the moment feel alive. Now, they simply listen. This shift can be confusing, even heartbreaking, because from the outside, everything seems fine. They're not avoiding you. They're not cold. but on the inside, the connection feels like it's being slowly drained of its life force. When someone is displeased with you but chooses not to speak it, they may remain physically present, but emotionally absent, listening without investing, engaging just enough to keep things from falling apart, but not enough to bring things back to life. And if you're someone who values depth, who feels safe in mutual emotional presence, this kind of silence can be the most disorienting of all. You start to question yourself. Am I boring them? Did I do something wrong? Is this just in my head? And this is where Stoic wisdom becomes a vital compass. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, observed, when someone does wrong, it is because they do not know what is right. Do not be angry with them, but teach them if you can. If not, accept and walk on. Not everyone will tell you why they've pulled away. Not everyone will give you a clear exit or an open door to resolution. Some people manage their discomfort through quiet disengagement. And while that may not feel fair, it is their way of coping. So how do we respond? With stillness, with steadiness, with the awareness that not all silences require a reaction, some require reflection. Seneca, writing to Lucilius, once said, "A wise person does not become upset with the world, but seeks to understand it." When someone begins to engage less, don't immediately take offense. Don't rush to fill the gap with assumptions or fear. Instead, ask yourself gently, is there space for me to inquire? Is this someone I trust enough to say, I sense something has shifted, can we talk? And if not, if the bond is too fragile or the silence too wide, then honor that boundary. Choose dignity over desperation. Just because someone isn't pouring energy into you doesn't mean you've lost your worth. Your value doesn't fluctuate based on someone else's willingness to connect. Let their disengagement be a mirror, not a judgment. A mirror that reflects where you stand with them. A mirror that invites you to check your integrity. A mirror that says, even if they have gone quiet, will you still speak with grace? Epictetus reminds us, it is not events that disturb us, but our opinion about them. So do not let someone's fading engagement become a personal torment. See it, acknowledge it, and then, lovingly, return to your center. Your peace is not dependent on their participation. It lives in your response. And if the bond was real, if the relationship was meaningful, it may return. And if not, let it be a lesson, a soft reminder of how sacred true engagement is and how rare. Because presence is not just about showing up. It's about showing into one another. It's about the spark of shared curiosity, the warmth of mutual care. When that fades, let it hurt, but don't let it harden you. Instead, let it make you more present in the next connection, more attuned, more tender, more wise. And in that, dear listener, you carry the quiet strength of a Stoic heart. Part 5. Sarcasm replaces sincerity. Not all displeasure sounds like anger. Sometimes it sounds like a joke, a quick jab wrapped in laughter, a comment that seems playful until it stings just a little too much. And when you look up to meet their eyes, you don't see warmth. You see something else, a flicker of resentment, perhaps, a truth too sharp to be said plainly, so it hides behind irony. That's the nature of sarcasm when it replaces sincerity. Now, don't get me wrong, sarcasm, in its lightest form, can be a sign of comfort. Friends tease, lovers poke fun. Playfulness is part of human connection. But you can feel the difference, can't you? Between teasing that brings you closer and sarcasm that quietly pushes you away. When someone is displeased with you but unwilling or unable to express it directly, sarcasm can become their shield, their secret weapon. It allows them to speak their frustrations without having to own them. And it allows them to wound without seeming unkind. But sincerity is vulnerable. It risks honesty. It says, this bothered me. It says, I feel hurt. And not everyone feels safe enough or mature enough to speak that plainly. So instead, they joke. They say something like, well, you're always late anyway, and laugh as if it were nothing. Or, don't worry, you probably forgot, like, you always do. Or maybe they mimic your tone, exaggerate your habits, make you the punchline, and when you hesitate, they say, relax, I'm just kidding. But the discomfort you feel, that tightening in your chest, it tells you the truth that the words won't. And in that moment, the Stoic path calls for restraint, not retaliation, because the ego wants to defend itself, to shoot back with sarcasm of your own, to match their bite with one of your own. But Marcus Aurelius offers a different way. He writes, when you are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and study your failings. Then you will forget your anger. The Stoic doesn't rush to judgment. He sees through the mask without, tearing it off. He recognizes sarcasm as what it often is: not cruelty, but emotional immaturity, a fear of intimacy, a reluctance to feel exposed. And this is where compassion can meet philosophy. When someone begins replacing sincerity with sarcasm, don't take it as a challenge. Take it as a signal, not to ignore but to listen differently. What are they afraid to say? What pain lies beneath the punchline? Sometimes the most disarming thing you can offer in return is not another joke, but presence, stillness, even a quiet question that sounded a little sharp. Is there something on your mind? You may be surprised by how quickly the mask drops when someone feels truly safe. And if it doesn't, if they deny, deflect, or continue hiding behind irony, then remember these words from Epictetus. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Their sarcasm is not your burden to carry. Your responsibility is not to decode every joke or walk on eggshells to avoid them. Your responsibility is to stay anchored, to honor sincerity in yourself, even when it disappears in others. If they are someone you love, and the bond matters, offer a door, open, but not forceful, compassionate, but boundaried. Let them know there is space for honesty if and when they are ready. And if they are not, let that be okay to because sincerity is a form of courage. And not everyone is ready for that courage in every season of life. But you must remain sincere, not for them, for yourself. Because when you hold to sincerity in a world full of sarcasm, you become the rare light that others eventually remember. So laugh, yes, smile. Be playful when it's real, but never trade your truth for the safety of irony. And never forget, real connection lives in what is said with care, not just cleverness. Part 6. Their absence speaks louder than words. Sometimes the loudest thing a person says is nothing at all. There's no announcement, no confrontation, no formal goodbye, just absence. A gradual fading, a gentle erasure from moments where they once stood beside you. It begins quietly. Maybe they stop replying as quickly, or stop reaching out altogether. You start noticing they're no longer showing up the way they used to. They don't ask how your day went. They don't tag you in things they know you'd love. And over time, the silence becomes a presence in itself, heavy, unmistakable. They may still be around. You see them online, maybe even in the same social spaces, but their energy is elsewhere now. No drama, no storm, just distance. And it hurts, doesn't it? Because part of you would rather argue. At least then, you'd have something tangible to work with. But this quiet retreat feels like mourning someone who's still breathing. But here, in this space between what was and what now is, the teachings of Stoicism become not just helpful but vital. Seneca wrote, "A wise man is content with himself, yet can live in harmony with others." We often forget that we are not entitled to permanence in people's lives. We forget that change is natural, that relationships have their seasons, some brief, some lifelong. And just because someone no longer walks beside us doesn't mean their journey is wrong or that ours is. Yet when we are emotionally invested, it's hard not to personalize someone's absence. We begin writing stories in our heads. Did I do something wrong? Was I not enough? Are they punishing me by pulling away? But Stoicism reminds us we are only responsible for what is within our control, and that does not include someone else's. Silence. Epictetus, with his steady clarity, once said, "When someone separates from you, let them go. What remains is yours. What departs was never truly yours to keep." This is not a cold rejection of love. It's an invitation to inner freedom, to stop gripping what is already slipping, to stop chasing ghosts in rooms we no longer belong in. Absence teaches us. It reveals the imbalance in effort. It clarifies what is shared and what is one-sided. And more than anything, it invites us back to the self. In Thebesons, we learn to be present with ourselves, because sometimes people pull away not because they hate us, but because they're struggling in ways we can't see. Sometimes they don't know how to communicate their pain, or they're overwhelmed, or lost in their storm. And sometimes, yes, they've simply chosen another path. You don't need to hate them for that. You don't need to blame yourself either. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, offers us this gentle counsel. Choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been. When we see someone's absence as a punishment, we suffer. But when we see it as a natural unfolding of life's ebb and flow, we begin to find peace. Their absence is information, not about your worth but about the state of the connection. And sometimes, the most dignified response is no response, just understanding, just release. So, if someone you care about has slowly stepped back, breathe, grieve. If you must, that's human. But don't chase what isn't returning the same energy. Let your silence answer their silence, not out of pride, but out of peace. And while they walk their path, you walk yours, not bitter, not broken, but whole, because what you give to others is always a reflection of what you hold within. And when someone's absence speaks louder than words, you get to decide how loudly your dignity responds. You don't have to slam the door, but you also don't have to leave it open forever. And that, dear listener, is one of the quiet strengths of a Stoic heart. It knows when to stay and when to let go with grace. So, here we are, 5 subtle signs, 5 whispers of disconnection, and maybe, as you listened, someone came to mind, a friend, a colleague, a loved one. Maybe you recognize these signs in a relationship you've been unsure about. That's okay. Don't panic, don't rush, take a breath, because the goal here is not to become hypervigilant or overly analytical. It's to become aware, gentle, grounded. When we observe these signs with a Stoic heart, we don't let them turn us bitter, we let them make us better. Better listeners, better friends, better humans. You don't have to chase every silence. But when you sense misalignment, offer presence, offer patience, and above all, offer peace.